This is a presentation on the Alabama statewide constitutional amendment number 1, one of the most dangerous constitutional amendments ever placed on a ballot. This statewide constitutional amendment will appear on your March 3rd, 2020, and here is the ballot language that will appear on your ballot. Proposing an amendment to the Constitution of Alabama of 1901 to change the name of the State Board of Education to the Alabama Commission on Elementary and Secondary Education, to provide for the appointment of the members of the commission by the governor, subject to confirmation by the Senate, to change the name of the State Superintendent of Education to the Secretary of Elementary and Secondary Education, to provide for the appointment of the Secretary by the Commission, subject to the confirmation by the Senate, and to authorize the governor to appoint a team of local educators and other officials to advise the Commission on matters relating to the functioning and duties of the State Department of Education. Question: did you see anything mentioned about you, the voter, will no longer be allowed to vote on your State Board of Education representative anymore? The answer is no. Well, did you see anything mentioned that this amendment will seal Alabama to national educational standards, of which the only national educational standards that exist today are the Common Core state standards? The answer again is no. Did you see anything mentioned that this amendment guarantees minorities a minimum of 3 out of 9 positions on the new commission? Once again, the answer is no. Do you think these appointed members will be more loyal to you, the people, or to the politicians who will appoint them if this amendment is approved? Well, the obvious answer is they will be loyal to the politicians who appoint them and not to the people who would have had the opportunity to elect them. Then why would anyone want to vote in favor of this statewide constitutional Amendment 1? Well, they should not be in favor of Amendment 1, and every person should fight to kill this amendment. The proponents will say states with appointed boards score higher than states with elected boards. Well, the statistics show that 3 of the top 10 states have elected boards, whereas 6 of the bottom 10 states have appointed boards. This is the U.S. News ranking on education. The proponents would say, we want more qualified members on the board so we can make the right decisions for our students. We say, here's an example of whom Governor Ivey will appoint. Governor Ivey, in January 2020, appointed Dr. Tonia Stewart to fill a vacancy in the State Board of Education. Dr. Stewart majored in theatrics and acting with no K through 12 experience, nor any majors in the K through 12. She was an actress and a dean of theatrics at an Alabama college. So this is what we can expect if Amendment 1 passes. And this is not to talk about the character of Dr. Stewart. I'm sure she's a fine lady. She is just not qualified for the State Board of Education. Just a note about the current State Board of Education. This is excluding Dr. Stewart. The current State Board of Education members have an average of over 17 years of experience each in K through 12 education, and most were teachers in the public school system. And all of them were elected by you, the people of Alabama. The proponents would say people of Alabama can come to Montgomery to express any concerns about the education in Alabama to the commission. We say how many people can or will even travel to Montgomery to divorce their concerns about education in Alabama to this commission. It's much easier to talk to an elected member within your own district. Well, the proponents say this amendment will rid Alabama of Common Core. Notice Common Core is in lowercase. We say, why did you place Common Core within the amendment's full language in lowercase lettering, which makes it generalized instead of capital letters, which have referred directly to the proper noun Common Core state standards? Well, that's why we call it the bait and switch. The reason for the lowercase is for them to not name Common Core state standards, which are the current national standards, specifically because they never planned to remove the Common Core state standards, the national standards from Alabama, which has been a disaster since its inception in 2012. Now, how do we know they plan to keep Common Core state standards, the national standards? There are many reasons, but for the purposes of time, we will just discuss two reasons. First, on December 12, 2019, Governor Ivey, presiding over the State Board of Education, pushed for the adoption of the so-called new math standards, which were adopted 5 votes to 3. Our team, in written detailed proof, provided to the State Board of Education members and to the governors days in advance of this meeting, and in addition, the day of the meeting, we supplied hard copies of the same so-called new improved math standards, side-by-side comparisons to the Common Core state standards, verbatim. They matched at over 99%. Therefore, Governor Ivey pushed for these to be passed and immediately afterwards stated to the media, it is now time to pass Amendment 1. Why would Governor Ivey push for the passage of these math standards, knowing that they are Common Core state standards, and push for Amendment 1, where she and others are stating Amendment 1 rids Alabama of Common Core? That's because she knows that Amendment 1 does not remove Common Core state standards, the national standards. Why else would she have pushed these math standards, which are Common Core standards? And she knows that we will challenge these math standards in court if Amendment 1 passes, and have them removed from the state if Amendment 1 truly did mean that it would do away with the Common Core state standards. The second reason, which we call the bait and switch, is solidified within the full amendment language, which is not shown on the ballot. The full language of the amendment states the course of study standards that ensure nationwide consistency in lieu of Common Core. The only national standards that exist today are Common Core state standards. As we mentioned earlier, lowercase Common Core does not refer to the Common Core state standards. Therefore, it seals Common Core state standards, the national standards within our Constitution, and the only way to remove it for another statewide constitutional amendment is to be passed. Meaning that the legislature would have to actually put a bill in to repeal Amendment 1, and then the people would have to vote to pass it. This is not going to happen. Why are Common Core state standards, the national standards, so wrong, so bad? Well, they teach socialist agenda. There's a federal study that just came out that states that 76% of the teachers had to change at least 50% of the classroom instruction. 82% of the mathematics teachers and 72% of the English teachers reported having to change at least 50% of their instructional materials. Students and teachers have sought psychological help due to the Common Core state standards, and many parents have sought tutoring for their students because they could not understand some of the standards that existed with Common Core. It's been a disaster throughout America. The following charts show the terrible effects it has had on the state of Alabama. As you can see where the red line shows on this NAEP percent of students at or above the basic level of math, the red line represents when Common Core went in. Notice the green line, how it dropped. So the scores went down. This is the HCT math average in Alabama. You see where Common Core, the red line shows, and then a tremendous drop in the average scores. This is a list of those standards by state, and at that time, Alabama was ranked 49th. In 2019, they were ranked dead last. These are the effects if Amendment 1 passes. You will lose your right to vote for the State Board of Education members. You will lose your voice in your children's education in the future. Your children will continue with the failed Common Core state standards. Alabama's Constitution will be sealed with the Common Core state standards. Politicians will have more power over education than ever before. It is nothing but pure deception to try to fool the voters into voting for this amendment. By the way, if Amendment 1 passes, then you're going to see the legislature's hypocrisy. Why? The appointed commission will be limited to 2 terms of 6 years each, set by the legislature. Why would the legislature pass term limits on another government agency, yet they'll not do it for themselves? It's called hypocrisy. Do you want to place your trust in the legislature to appoint the State Board of Education members? And vote no. This is how you can help defeat Amendment 1. Make copies of the handout, The Case Against Alabama Statewide Amendment 1, and send it to all your friends and everyone you can think of. You can tell your people to go to vote-no-amend1.com. You can download that handout. It's called the gray handout. Or you can go to Facebook, Vote No Amend 1, Amend 1 of the same name. And if you want to help us defeat this amendment, press the donate button and donate to this cause. But make sure and go to the voting polls on March the 3rd, 2020, and vote no Tuesday, March the 3rd, 2020.